good Thursday morning. We've got football tonight, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings, and it's something to keep an eye on, just maybe, for the New York Jets if the Vikings lose this game and continue to lose, because they just might have a player on that team that could maybe help them a little bit later in the season. And Aaron Rodgers, the first time we have heard from him. If you want to say a social media post is hearing from him, we didn't hear his voice, but he did post something saying that he was heartbroken and thanks everybody reaching out. And he will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. So that made everybody feel a hell of a lot better about him coming back and playing next year. And Rob Saleh said there's no way he's going to go out like that. So right now, as we sit here, and Aaron Rodgers is a different type of dude, as we know, and changes his mind. But right now, as we sit here, it seems like his plan is to rehab and come back and be the Jets quarterback next year, which is good news for Jets fans. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. And it also goes back to the point about him at least giving 2 years to the Jets. Now, nobody thought he was going to get hurt. And you remember he always talking about, I made a commitment to them, and we'll see how this year goes. Assuming that if they had won to the Super Bowl, maybe, just maybe, then he would have retired. But I don't think he's going to want to go out this way. And the way that surgery goes nowadays, it's so much better than it was when Vinny Testaverde had his Achilles done. So much better than when Dan Marino had his Achilles done. And all you have to do is look at Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant looks like he never had an injury.
Yes, that's right. And he did have that same injury, major injury, and did take a year off, but then came back and was at a high level. So I wonder, when is Aaron Rodgers having that surgery? And is he going to be around? I mean, that's going to be, we're talking about Zach Wilson and his maturity, and a big part of that is Aaron Rodgers being there during training camp. And I think him being around is important for Zach Wilson and the Jets' morale as a whole. So I wonder, when are we going to see him?
Well, I don't know when we're going to see him, but I do believe he either had surgery yesterday or he'll have it today. And Dr. Neil Elatraj will probably do the surgery. He's worked on him before with other injuries. He's a orthopedic surgeon out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I would think that's where he's going to go. But that's probably the doctor he feels most comfortable with. And then convalescing afterwards, I would think he'd be at his home in Malibu. Now, how long he's there before he comes back here, that's anybody's guess. And I guess that's really going to be about what the doctor tells him, where he can go, can he stand, all those different things that go into it. So we may not see Aaron Rodgers here for quite some time. He may, have to go through this process over the next 5 to 6 weeks at least, I would think, before he's going to get on an airplane and come back here. So I don't know. I think it was either yesterday or today, and it's going to be out in L.A., and it's going to be Dr. Neil Elatraj. And then the determining factor of when and if he comes back this year will be, what they advise him and what they prescribe him to do, and how, he's got to go through this process. The one thing, about Kevin Durant, remember, he got hurt in the playoffs.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why he missed the next year. This is game one. So you're thinking that by next August, that would almost be 12 months, and that would be well within the range of him being able to come back and play.
Yeah, and also I was listening to Jerry and Al, the warm-up show, and Jerry said he heard an interview with Dan Marino, and Dan Marino said that this is not his plant foot, which is something that we hadn't really discussed, and I think that's an important point. The fact that this is not the foot that he's going to be, dropping back, planting, and throwing off of, which is a positive if you're looking for a silver lining. But I do think it's important that his presence is around, and I'm sure the Jets said, listen, do what you got to do. Go out there, use the doctor you want to use. You've got carte blanche. We don't care. We know you're going to do the right thing. And Aaron probably wants to get away from it. If you looked at his Instagram post, it seemed very emotional. I wouldn't be surprised if he was out there in Malibu trying to clear his head and get over all of this. But at some point, he should be back.
Yeah, depending on what the doctors tell him to do. You got to remember, as much as he would love to be back with his teammates, I'm sure he'd like to be involved. But, at this point, going to L.A. and getting the surgery done, I don't suspect that he's going to be on a plane back here immediately. I don't see that. And again, I'm just speculating. I just think that, the convalescing over the next 5 to 6 weeks at his home in Malibu would probably be the thing that would be the best situation for him. Plus, he's got to go see the doctor and make sure that the surgery's clean, that there's no after effects from the surgery, and there's all sorts of things that could happen. So really, what you got to hope for is that that he gets on the road to recovery. He goes through the rehab process, and then is ready to go get going for next year. And like I said, he's well within the range of being ready to go next year. 9 to 12 months, they say. He's had other injuries he's come back from, and I would suspect that he'll come back from this. And like I said, he basically said during Hard Knocks or around Hard Knocks and interviews after interviews that he committed to the Jets for at least 2 years.
Yeah, so that means that he should be playing next year as long as he stays in this same mentality, which is that he's going to rehab and come back and play, and that's what it sounded like from the Instagram post. Now, the thing that the Jets have to keep an eye on, and their fans need to keep an eye on, is who could be available later in the season, not so much now, if things aren't exactly going their way. Because Zach Wilson could be okay. Maybe he's better than all of us expect, or maybe he's horrendous. And I don't think that the Jets, if Zach Wilson is bad, are going to just sit there, sitting on their hands, saying, woe is us. This is not the group that is going to be doing that.
Not now, they're not, especially after 3 years of building to get to this point.
Exactly. So they're not going to let this thing just go right down the toilet because of the quarterback. And as we know, they've got two guys on the roster as it sits here right now, Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. And chances are both of those guys are not going to take this team to the promised land. So let's say Zach keeps them on track. They're right there, maybe a little bit worse than what we expected because obviously there's a huge drop-off between Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson. We get around the trade deadline. And a team that's playing tonight, let's just say, is having a miserable season. They're probably going to be 0-2 after tonight. They can't win in Philadelphia, although Philadelphia is banged up and their defense did not look great against New England. I guess there's a shot that the Vikings could win, but they got killed there last year. They always get killed in Philadelphia. It's a terrible spot for them. They're a touchdown underdog, and they could start out the season 0-2, having lost to the Buccaneers and then having lost to the Eagles if they lose tonight. And their schedule is very, very difficult. What happens around the trade deadline when Kirk Cousins, who's on an expiring contract, is on a team that's 1-6?
I think his dead cap number is about $40 million, though. So that you would have to, the Vikings would have to say, okay, we'll eat that. We'll move on from him. We'll get a second-round draft choice or whatever, if in fact that was even a possibility for the Jets to fit him in their salary cap. They could move money around. Everybody can do different things.
His base salary is only like $10 million this year.
Right. So it's really about the dead cap number and whether or not the Vikings can absorb that.
Yeah, and I wonder, too, at the trade deadline, if it's the same as if he was traded in the offseason. And that's something that I'm trying to find the answer to, but the nuances of the salary cap are very difficult to find on the internet because only really general managers know this stuff. So I wonder if he was traded before the season started, yes, that dead cap number triggers in. But if it's at the trade deadline, is it the same amount of money? What happens at his expiring contract? There's a lot of factors, but also another factor is he's got a full no trade clause.
Yeah, I would be lukewarm on him, not for any playing reason, just for all the things you're talking about: dead cap money, no trade clause. It's still only week 2 in the season. They may get off to an 0-2 start. Remember, the Bengals got off to an 0-2 start last year. There's all sorts of things that can be going on here, and I'm sure Joe Douglas is going through his litany of players and just looking at everybody and then talking to his offensive coordinator, trying to figure out, which player would be the most apt to be able to step in and know the vocabulary, the system, and understand, what their what their responsibilities are. People don't understand, like, being a quarterback at the NFL, it's an enormous job. It's just everything that goes into being a successul quarterback, you can't just pluck a guy off the street and plug him in.
I understand.
And say, go take them to the Super Bowl, go take them to the playoffs. It doesn't work that way. There's so much that goes into it. So the way I look at it, it would have to be somebody somewhere along the line that has a tie to this type of offense, this type of vocabulary, if in fact Zach falls flat on his face. That's the fallback position. They could get somebody in here like a Colt McCoy or somebody that's not going to excite anybody, but could actually get a snap off and call a play and probably be able to run 20 plays or so off his wristband and know without checking at the line of scrimmage. Everything that Aaron Rodgers was capable of doing at the line of scrimmage is now basically out the window. That part of it is out the window. And the thing that really distresses me, and this report came after I was questioning why Aaron Rodgers didn't throw the ball quickly when he has his tackles trying to do cut blocks. And then, of course, and maybe this is what pisses people off up in Green Bay, I don't know. Then, of course, a report comes out that says, Aaron doesn't like that because he likes to extend plays. Well, I don't want Zach Wilson thinking that way. I want Zach Wilson knowing what the guys are doing on particular plays that are being called. So if those plays are being called and the tackles are taught to dive at the ankles or knees of the defensive ends to get their hands down so the ball doesn't get batted in those situations, I want Zach making a decision and throwing it. I don't want him extending plays.
Yeah.
That's where he gets in trouble.
And back to the first part of what you were just saying, though, about plucking a quarterback and how tough that is. I think we learned in the quarterback documentary how hard playing the position is. But another thing we learned is how much work Kirk Cousins puts in. And he is a guy you don't have to worry about. Let's just say, just for hypothetically speaking, that the Jets, it's a desperation heave-ho to try to get a competent person in at the trade deadline because Zach's not getting it done. Tim Boyle's not getting it done. They just need to do something because the team is great everywhere else. The Vikings are giving up. They were going to move on from Kirk Cousins at the end of the year anyway, and they want to keep Justin Jefferson happy, so they give him a contract, and now there's a chance that Kirk Cousins comes here. He would work his ass off to learn that offense more than just about anybody in the league. And I know that for a fact because I watched him learn a new offense with Kevin O'Connell last year on the quarterback documentary where he's sitting in his hotel room by himself with index cards writing the plays over and over and over and over again.
That's right.
So if there's one guy that could take on that tremendous responsibility, and he's 35 years old. He's been in the league for a long time now. He's got a bunch of different coordinators, a bunch of experience. He'll put everything into it.
And I'm sure that Kevin O'Connell, because he comes from this group of young coaches that are coaching now, that are offensive coaches in mind, I'm sure that there are similarities in his offense and Nathaniel Hackett's offense. So, I could see that. But I also know that would be a Band-Aid. That would be however long he would be here. If in fact they did trade for him, that would just be a Band-Aid.
Well, yeah, right. But it would be a Band-Aid that could maybe get you to where you wanted to go with Aaron Rodgers. Now, Kirk Cousins is not Aaron Rodgers. I understand, but he's a hell of a lot better than Zach Wilson. So, and this team is really, really good. They got a ton of weapons. They got a great defense. This is the type of team that Kirk Cousins could get to the next level with. Like, he's had some good teams. He's never had a great team around him. So anybody who says, he can't win a big game, he can't do this, he can't do that.
You say that.
Right. That's all true.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Right, okay.
But he's never had.
Plus, he's got Dalvin Cook back here.
He's right. He's never had a defense like this.
Right.
And he's had weapons like this, but he's never played with a defense like this.
All right. So I'm sure that could be a possibility depending on the salary cap end and the dead cap end on the other side of the Minnesota Vikings ledger.
Yeah.
And whether or not, the other question is whether or not he wants to leave Minnesota and come to New York.
Yeah. Well, I think if the GM says to him, we're not going to bring you back next year. Our season is over. You're basically going to be playing out the string here.
We want Caleb Williams.
Yes. And we're going to try to tank to get Caleb Williams, which would be the greatest thing in the world. And finally, maybe the Vikings get that great quarterback. But I would say if I'm Kirk Cousins, hell yeah, I'm going to try to make a run for a Super Bowl. I mean, if the Jets are sitting there and having a good season and Zach Wilson's holding them back, I mean, why would you not waive your no-trade clause to go to that type of deal where you could maybe find yourself in Las Vegas.
All right, that a possibility, but not in the immediate future.
No,
it just everybody understands in the immediate future.
They're giving Zach the chance.
You could throw every name out there that you want. Here's a guy that has been through this entire training camp. Here's a guy that was a former number 2 overall pick. Here's a guy that is basically a reclamation project right now, and they're going to get. And I know for a fact that the general manager does like the young man. He does like the young man, but I don't think he's sold that he's going to take them to the promised land. What is amazing to me, and through all of this, is that part of this whole big Aaron Rodgers picture was the reclamation of Zach Wilson. It's now sped up to a point where he's going to be the guy that's going to be asked to do it. And I mean, believe me, he has taken his slings and arrows. More people are dumping on this kid. And I'm just, I want to give him a chance. And, of all teams to go against in his first start back, has to be one of the best teams when it comes to pass rushing.
Yeah, the Cowboys.
Holy God. I watched this tape yesterday. These guys, they mauled the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody who was at that game and watched that game on Sunday night, the Giants' offensive line didn't have a chance.
I mean, think about the Cowboys' home opener after beating the Giants 40-0. That building when Zach Wilson goes out there on that first drive with the most fans that they could pack into an NFL stadium. It's going to be insanity. I mean,
this is what you play for, man. This is
this
is what you play for.
I
this
just
is
can't
what
wait
you
for
want.
everybody to do a 180 on that. Oh, everybody would love Zach now, and he's going to be fine. And
wait a minute, not everybody loves Zach. I don't know what you're hearing.
All these Jet fans like BT and Joe Beningo and all the people calling here, give him a chance. He's going to be so much better. It's a year into it. Blah, blah, blah. We'll see.
I mean, what is it with the screaming and yelling going on around here, Al? I mean, there's been a lot of screaming and yelling.
Yeah, even yesterday I saw Tommy Lugauer and Evan screaming at each other.
Right. We had Sal screaming the other day.
Sal screaming.
Well, Sal was screaming yesterday, right?
BT screaming. Sean Marash screaming.
A lot of screaming, man.
There's a lot of screaming going on around here. I mean, what is it with these people?
Just like Zach Wilson, these guys are getting their shot, right? They're getting their opportunity. Loser. So, they're going all full bore, man, and not leaving anything out there. It all on
these
the
guys are like insane. I did not hear the Marash scream. What was he screaming about?
He was fighting a Cowboys fan on the phone, a caller.
Oh, okay.
I got to watch the Lugauer Evan one. Did you see that one?
I did not see that.
I got to watch that in a break. I'm curious to see that.
That's about like expectations now, Giants versus Jets sort of thing.
Did it seem real?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I had to go down to Mercer Lake. Al, you've ever heard of this?
No, I don't know that one.
I didn't know it either. So it's in central Jersey. I guess there's a big PR push to let everybody know that there's a South Jersey, a North Jersey, and a Central Jersey, and I guess a Shoreside Jersey. I don't know. They're promoting or whatever. But it's a beautiful state park. And I was down there for the United Healthcare Children's Foundation. Really, I mean, it's just a beautiful park. But, I mean, my God, it is like 2 hours away. But as I'm leaving the city, I'm driving over, what is that thing called? The Skyway, the Pulaski Skyway?
Pulaski Skyway, yeah.
Yeah, that
Covered
brown
roadway,
thing.
the
That thing's brown, whatever it is, but it's brown. Everything in Jersey seems to be brown, except this area at Mercer Lake. I'm surprised. They should just name it Lake Tahoe, Jersey, just like they did Lake Como. Like you stole the name Lake Como from Italy. They should do the same thing with this because this is how beautiful this lake is. I didn't realize they had crew teams out there and everything else back and forth.
Oh, that's by Princeton.
Yeah. So as I'm going over the Pulaski Skyway, I think I know where all the stolen cars are. I mean, the Port of Newark is packed with cars. I've never seen.
Yeah, when my car got stolen, that's where I had to go retrieve it.
I've never seen so many cars in my life in the Port of Newark, and it's on both sides of the Pulaski Skyway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now we know. If
So
you get your car stolen, go over there.
I think that's where they have to be.
Yeah.